Tonight, the border may be thousands of miles away, but hundreds of kids are being held right in our area that after they were separated from their families. And there are more questions than answers that we report tonight about how they are and where they're being kept. Also, we'll look at the politics of immigration and how one tweet from the president is causing even more disarray. And we'll switch gears later on and pay a visit to Broadway for a review of the new Harry Potter plays. Legendary theater critic John Simon just saw both parts of it, and we'll see whether or not he liked them. He's very hard to please. Good evening, everybody, and welcome to RFL. I'm Richard French. Hope you had a great week. Well, the president, he signed that executive order aimed at ending family separations at the border. And he did a victory lap and said this solved the whole problem. By the way, he did create the problem, but that is besides the point. Since then, however, there has been nothing but chaos and confusion. Now, in a few minutes, we're going to head to D.C. and show you just how disorganized things are and how many people are asking where the kids are, where are the parents, how many of them are out there. You would think straightforward questions, but it is anything but. However, before we go to D.C., we wanted to first go around our area and fill you in on what is going on with these separated children, many of which, believe it or not, are in our area. The confusion, clearly not just at the border. Thousands of miles north in New York, as many as 700 kids are being housed. Governor Cuomo says he is upset with the lack of information coming from D.C. Take a listen.
You have 2,500 children scattered around the country who are highly traumatized. They're in state foster care facilities. Our state happens to have a large number of them because we have a large number of foster care facilities. And I'm trying to find out from the HHS where they actually put the children in my state.
Why don't you know?
Because I have the constitutional responsibility of helping them. Because HHS won't tell us.
In Westchester County, 4 facilities reportedly housing children, but it's unclear how many kids are being held where, and again, what is the total kids we're talking about here? One of these facilities is Children's Village in Dobbs Ferry. Well, tonight, for the first time, we see how the children are cared for and what services are provided. Fox 1's Ray Ramundi, he's live on the scene with more. Ray?
Yeah, Rich, the president and CEO of Children's Village here refers to this place as the shining city on a hill. Late this afternoon, as you mentioned, we got extraordinary access to the sprawling campus, to the recreational facilities you see right here behind me, to the living quarters over to my right, and even the medical treatment centers those migrant children encounter when they first arrive here on campus. We're getting our first look at the 200-plus acre campus of Children's Village in Dobbs Ferry. From the rooms those migrant children are evaluated in, to the medical facilities providing 24-hour immediate care, we go beyond the gates to see what those separated children experience right here in Westchester County.
We care about them and that we're here to support them, and we'll do everything to sort of get them reunited, or at least with a family member, to get in contact with a family member so they can feel safe.
Dr. Gardner is usually the first personal interaction for the migrant youth when they arrive on the facility. In these examination rooms, she conducts both physical and psychological medical evaluations.
They also have to trust me to do a physical exam for some. I'm the very first physician they've ever met, so me, even pulling out the, the otoscope to check into their ears, they've never had that done before. They don't know what that is.
Out of the estimated 2,300 children separated from their families here in the U.S., New York has 10 facilities providing shelter to those separated children. 4 of them are right here in the lower Hudson Valley, and staff here at Children's Village care for some 250 migrant youth on a daily basis.
This is not the place they should be. They should be in a home with family, with people that love them, but this is a better place than any other place that they've been. Our kids are sad, they're traumatized, but don't get me wrong, they're incredibly resilient.
I am fighting for the little children.
And beyond the campus grounds of Children's Village, there are ongoing rallies in support of immigrants, like this one in White Plains, as protesters call for the end of separation of migrant families and for those migrant children who are captured to be released.
It's emotional because I also grew up without my parents, so I know the pain that each child will go through.
And back here at the Children's Village, we asked the president and CEO if he's expecting more migrant children, possibly separated from their families, to arrive here. He responded by telling us he doesn't expect any immediate intakes in the near future, but that's a case-by-case, day-by-day basis on determining whether or not more kids arrive here. He says his sole focus on those kids, those migrant kids who are here right now, and either reuniting them with their families or finding them a permanent place to call home, Richard.
Ray, thank you very much. Good reporting tonight. We go from Westchester, New York City, where Mayor de Blasio says a center in Harlem is housing more than 200 children. De Blasio says D.C. didn't even tell him that the children were coming. Plus, the mayor says many of the kids are in really bad shape.
They're experiencing mental health challenges and trauma because of the separation. There's also physical health challenges. The health workers there were telling us these kids, because they were held in group facilities when they came across the border, some have lice, some have bed bugs, chicken pox, all sorts of contagious situations.
Now, this is not just New York. Across the river in New Jersey, social services agencies say 20 migrant kids have arrived in the state in just the past 30 days. Today, people protested outside one facility in Elizabeth. Senator Bob Menendez, himself the child of immigrants, he was on hand.
Many of us feared that if elected, President Trump would trample the rights of immigrants. And since his election, he has made our worst fears a reality.
Out on Long Island, a facility in Syosset reportedly housing 8 children. They've also been protesting there as well. We were on the scene talking to them after reporters were not allowed to enter the facility.
It concerns me about the care they're getting. It concerns me that people are being ripped away from their families.
Immigrants have rights too. We should not have treated people this way.
Now, it's a lot to unpack here, and let me bring in my panel to help do this. Shelley Mayers, a Democratic New York State Senator representing a chunk of Westchester County, and Andrew Whitman, our senior political correspondent. Just from a macro statement, I saw a facility before the show in Virginia, again, a nonprofit set up with private donations. From what we've seen of the place in Dobbs Ferry, I've not heard otherwise. Many of these places, if not most, care about the kids and they're doing the right thing. But to me, what was telling Shelley was the head of it, the CEO of that, says this is no place for these kids. The kids should be with their parents. And some kids don't know, the phone number to reach the parents, let alone their parents. They can't even communicate. Some of these kids at certain ages can't even do the whole names. This is a mess. People make jokes about government, but have you ever heard of such a thing where we don't even know? The governor's saying he doesn't even know kids are in his own state, and the government in D.C. can't even say how many kids there are and where they are and where their parents are.
And how they're going to reunite them. It's worse than a mess. It's really an injustice to me. And I appreciate that people disagree about immigration policy. This is not a fight about immigration policy. This is a fight about American values. What you do when people come across the border seeking asylum. Make a judgment about the asylum. That's not the issue. The issue is tearing apart not only the children, but the parents. I have to say, as a mother, and I'm sure that every other parent feels this way, the idea that my child is going to be physically taken from me and placed in a place I do not know, I cannot contact them, I have no assurance of their safety and well-being, emotional and physical. It's completely unacceptable, and I think you are seeing an outcry of all people of all stripes, saying this is not the American way, and separate it. And the president is trying to confuse us by conflating these issues of immigration policy. This is about, like you're saying, what is best for children, what is best for families. America is about families. We thrive because of families. I find it so personally hurtful. I met a woman today at the demonstration in White Plains who told me she drove around the whole day yesterday crying as she listened to the news and said, I have to do something. People feel motivated. This goes to the core of your personal belief as a person, particularly as a parent. So I think, Governor Cuomo is not going to be pushed aside on this. And the fact that he does not know the information about how many kids are in our state, in my district, that we have no knowledge of how many kids are there, his commissioner sent a letter to every one of these agencies asking for details. Credit to him. We need to know. We are not going to be pushed aside and say this is some other state. This is our state.
And in some reporting, the governors of these different states, they're literally not waiting for the government to figure this out, the U.S. government, the administration. They're hiring attorneys to try and help the kids, to try and connect the parents. It's this much dislocation, Andrew. We'll get into politics next segment of it, but we know for a fact children and their parents have already gone, in some cases, a year here without being able to connect the dots and be connected with one another. This is not a theoretical exercise. There's a practical fact that some of these 2,300 kids will not be connected with their parents.
And it's going to be very difficult, and it's going to be interesting to see how this plays out. Just a reminder before we get too far ahead of this, that these facilities where people are protesting outside, some of them, where people are gathering, they're doing yeoman's work, and this is not what their original purpose is. These are groups that are focused on helping kids who are in dire straits, but even in their normal mode of operation, they are the home of last resort, if you will, and even they recognize the value of keeping families together when possible for whatever the domestic issues happen to be, and only when there is no other alternative do they wind up at these kinds of facilities. And so I think we're seeing that echoed from the facilities today when they're saying that they shouldn't be here, that these families should try to stay together. It's always in whatever level of government, whatever part of the justice system we're dealing with, the hope is to try to keep families together, except for the worst case scenario. But then again, there have been children that have been separated from their parents in past years through other border incursions and things like that. And there have been cases, we already have reports where it's been difficult, if not impossible, to reunite them with their parents. And keep in mind, this all happened so quickly and with so little organization from the federal government that I would not be surprised if there wasn't particularly good record keeping, or and how are you going to have one of these kids try to call their parents or set that up?
So they'll go back to your point of how unacceptable that is. That frankly, some of these kids are going to be lost. Kids were lost. They acknowledged it before they told us about this new policy. And in the long run, we really run the risk that our country, through its ineptitude, lost these children.
See, I think it's worse than even ineptitude.
Oh, I do too.
There was a choice that was made. When you hear about the reporting, when the president decided, and his administration, we're going to do things differently, this zero tolerance. Once they issued those words and gave the directive, literally, you had people lying to parents saying they were going to take their kids for a minute and, do X or Y, and they never saw them again. Yeah. Like, there's a conscious choice that we're dealing with this chaos right now. It didn't start, this wasn't the first time we've seen a separation take place, but the volume and the ineptitude, as the senator said, but also the indifference.
Yes.
That's why we're here the way we are today. All right, we come back here. President Trump has not let this issue go, and he continues to not only conflate facts here, but shift blame here, play politics, all about immigration and its crisis, as we said, of his own making. We're going to take a closer look at just how disorganized everything is here and how this could really have tragic consequences. Stay with us.